All right, so for this unit, it is going to just be solving for the variables. That's going to be the letter of each of the problems, as well as doing it successfully. Now, there are a couple different ways to solve for each of these variables. So just keep in mind, I'm going to do what I feel would be the best and easiest way to do it. But if you are more comfortable doing a different version, that's completely okay as well. So looking at number 4, the do you know hows. At this current moment, I have 3x plus 2 equals x plus 4 times x plus 2. That is using the distributive property. So for these problems, we are going to do that first, and we're going to get to the simplest form before we go on and solve for the variable. So to start off with, 3x plus 2, there's absolutely nothing that I need to do with that. Same ordeal with this equals x. X cannot be simplified, but I can go ahead and do the distributive property first and multiply 4 to both of these terms. So 4 times x plus a 4 times 2. Simplifying, this will just be 3x plus 2 equals x plus 4x plus 8. Simplifying one more time, I can combine like terms. This will give me 3x plus 2 equals 5x plus 8. So now that you have this, we will be able to go ahead and solve for the variable. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to create a second one of these and pull it off to the side. That way I can solve after I simplified. So this over here is just simplifying. Where now we will be solving. So in order to solve, we need to get x to one side of the equation. I like it to the left side, so I'm going to subtract a 5x. 3x minus 5x is going to be a negative 2x, which is a-okay. Everything else drops. Plus 2 equals 8. From here, subtract a 2 on each side. This will give me a negative 2x. That cancels, equals a 6. Last but not least, we will need to divide by a negative 2 on each side. That'll cancel, leaving me with an x equals negative 3. 6 divided by negative 2, that gives me a negative 3. And that would be your final answer. Now, if you ever want to check your work, you can always plug this x back in. So 3 times a negative 3 plus 2 equals, plug in that negative 3, plus 4 times x plus 2, which is just going to be negative 3 plus 2. And then go through the process of solving. So 3 times negative 3, well, that's a negative 9, plus 2 equals a negative 3. You still need to distribute this 4 to both your terms. So 4 times a negative 3, that's a negative 12. 4 times a 2, that's still going to be an 8. Negative 9 plus 2, that's a negative 7. Negative 3 minus 12 is a negative 15, plus an 8 will also give you a negative 7. So this works out. This means that we do have the correct solution of negative 3. This is how every single problem that we come across is going to look like. Whether you're looking at the examples, there really aren't any word problems. We have this number 17 here, so maybe I'll do the odd problems for the examples, but we're just asked to solve. So if you need to pause the video at any time and see why I do something again, by all means do so. You don't have to look at it at the same speed. That's why I do the video, so you can stop, rewind, and see exactly what I'm doing with the steps. Make any additional notes that you need to. Number 5, we're going to start off by simplifying first. So just to start off, I'm going to distribute this -3 to both the terms. This will be a -3 times x. We can go ahead and put a plus here. -3 times a -1, and we'll describe exactly what happens there here in a second. And I did do negative because this is plus a negative number. Leave that plus 7x alone, equals 27. Still going through the process of simplifying first. -3 times x is a -3x. I'm going to keep that plus sign there because -3 times a -1 is actually a +3, so that works out. Plus 7x equals 27. Last thing I do have a set of like terms. -3 plus 7x, well, that's a +4x. Plus 3 equals 27. Now that I have this simplified, I am able to solve. So I'm just going to have that rewritten off to the side. So after you simplify, that really is the first step. You then go through the process of solving for x. Solving for x, we would subtract 3 on both sides. This drops on down. 4x is equal to a -1. Because 2 minus 3 is going to be -1. Now look what's happening here, and this is completely okay if this happens. I do still have to divide by 4 on both sides, leaving me with that x equals, you're going to get fractions as some of your answers, and that is a-okay. And in number 6, we actually start off with 2 fractions. So don't let the fact if you get a fraction as an answer scare you. It still can be a correct result. I mean, we can even try it out by just checking our work. So, we can even have that third step of check. I think after this one, though, I'm not going to check the work unless we get something super funky, just because it eases some time that we don't really need to waste. -1/4. That was a -1 plus 7, -1/4 equals 27. And this is what, I kind of mean here is that now we have all these different fractions going on, and we got to get it to equal that negative, or that positive 27. So with this, -3 times a -1/4, I didn't put it in red. Ooh. I didn't put it in red, but I'll go ahead and just highlight what my x's were. So that is going to be a positive 3/4 plus 3 minus, hold on. Yeah, 3x plus 3. Combine like terms. Oh, holy cow, guys. That was almost bad. I need to erase all this. Can you tell I'm tired? Forgot the 2. That'll change this answer. That's now going to be a 24, which means x is 6. That'll help us out. -3 times 6 minus 1 plus 7 times 6 equals 27. That should help us out. That should make life a little bit easier. With checking, you're still going to distribute. That's a -18 plus 3 plus 42 equals a 27. -18 plus 3. Oh, that's going to help me out. No, it did not help me out. That's going to be a -15 plus 42 will give us a 27. So that lets us know that the 6 is a valid answer, is the only valid answer. All right, now once again, that was the last one I'm going to check. The rest, I'm just going to go through the process of solving. If I am going a little quickly, it's because we got a lot to solve. But by all means, you can pause the video. You can circle what you're having troubles with, so on and so forth. But I'm still going to take it step by step, starting with simplify. The only thing I'm not going to do is check. Distribute first. Now this one does require us to distribute on both sides of the equal sign. So just keep in mind here that it's as if we're just doing two separate equations. One of them's dealing with the 1/3 and the other is dealing with that 1/2. So the first one, I'm going to have a 1/3 x plus 6 divided by 3 is 2 equals. Then I'm going to have a 1/2 x minus 3 over 2. Because keep in mind that distributing just deals with multiplication. Now we do not have common denominators. What I'm going to do first is get the common denominator of 6 for each of my terms. That's going to make this so much easier for us in the long run. So how do I do that? Well, I multiply by 2 on the top and the bottom. It's going to give me a 6 in the denominator, but a 2 in the numerator. Your x will stay the same and your plus sign stays the same. Now from here, this is as if I have an over 1. So I just multiply by 6 on the top and the bottom. It's going to give me a 12. This one is multiplied by 3 on the top and the bottom. Your x stays the same. And then from there, the only thing that will change is that. So from here, doing it to the very last one as well, multiply by 3 on the top and the bottom. That is going to give me a 9 on the top. Now that's all I needed to do in order to simplify. I can't do anything else. So now I need to go through the process of solving. So this is a 2 over 6x plus 12 over 6 equals a 3 over 6x minus 9 over 6. I'm going to start by getting all my x's to one side by subtracting a 3 over 6x to the left and the right. This will give me a negative 1 over 6x, and then everything else stays the same. Equals, that'll cancel, negative 9 over 6. I'm going to see if I can scoot this over so I have a bit more room. Yeah, oh no. Yeah, there we go. I'm scooted it all the way over here. So notice for this problem, it's just here. Do the exact same thing. Still working on now getting x by itself. It's a negative 12 over 6 on both sides. That will give me a negative 1 over 6x equals, this is now a negative 21 over 6. But that's okay. Now, in order to solve, if we have a fraction, there is one important rule here. We need to multiply by the reciprocal. Reciprocal. And what that means is that if we have a negative 1 over 6, we can still have that negative sign. We need that, but we need to multiply by 6 over 1. Your fraction simply switches or flips. What we do to one side, we still need to do to the other. This leaves us 6 on the bottom, 6 on the top. 1 on the bottom, 1 on the top. So really it just goes down to 1, and then negative times a negative will give us a positive x. Now we can kind of do the same steps here. We have a negative times a negative, so that'll be a positive. I have a 6 on the bottom, 6 on the top, but then I have a 21 over 1, which just means your final answer is 21. Last but not least, just because we have a decimal doesn't make this any harder. If anything, we can turn that decimal into a 1 over 4. And I actually think for this one, the 1 over 4 is going to make the problem a little bit easier to work because we have this 4 over here as well. So because of that, I'm just going to rewrite for whenever I simplify. This is going to be a 1 over 4 times x plus 4 minus 3 equals a 28. And don't forget that 8 at the end like I did for 2 problems ago. Distributing the 1/4, which just means multiply. 1 over 4 times x is 1 over 4x. 1 over 4 times a positive 4, that's just going to give me a 1. That's a 4 over 4, which comes out to be 1. Minus 3 equals a 28. Now from here, combining your like terms, the only like terms I have is this 1 and the negative 3. So 1 over 4x minus 2 equals 28. In order to now solve, 1 over 4x minus 2 equals 28. So with that, with the solve, we're just trying to get x by itself. We can add 2 to both sides, giving me 1 over 4x equals a 30. Now the big thing here as well is that whenever we have this, we have to multiply by 4 on both sides. So after multiplying by 4, this will cancel because this would be 4 over 1, 2 4s on the bottom, a 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. So therefore that leaves me with an x equals a 120. Now this is kind of a big number, but if you think about it, 1/4 times 120 plus 4, and then from there we have that minus 3 equals 28. When we go to distribute, this will turn into a 30 plus 1 minus 3. And then from there, 28 will then equal 28. So this was kind of my check underneath here for number 7. But it will work out. That's why I recommend you checking, even if you get this big number. Because sometimes it does work out. So if you ever have doubts, all you gotta do, plug it back in and solve. Now that brings us to our problems. Now because of the fact that number 17 is an odd, I will do the odd problems rather than the evens, which means we're looking down at number 9. It says use the distributive property to solve the equation. 28 minus 3x plus 4 equals 2x plus 6 plus x. So it's a whole bunch of filling in the boxes and then solving. I will do my best to write what is going on for each step. So for the first one, for here, how they go from step 1 to step 2 is they use the distributive property. They take this negative sign and they actually distribute it to each of the terms inside, meaning that this is going to be a negative 3x, but they already have the x, minus 4. And then the same ordeal here, they're using that distributive property again for the 2 times x and 2 times 6, which gives us that value of 12. Notice that everything else has stayed the same though. This second step, it looks like they're just combining like terms. So with the combining like terms, they said, okay, 28 minus 4, that gives me a 24. You're going to have a minus 3x by itself. Since there's nothing to combine it with, it just stays the same. It looks like as well we have this 2x plus x. Well, 2x plus x is just 3x. Where the very last one, this 12, is left alone. We don't have to do anything to that 12. After that, they're getting their x to one side. Get x to one side. And they do that by subtracting a 3x to both sides. So from there, minus 3x, or negative 3x minus 3x, well, it's going to be a negative 6x. Notice the negative sign's already there, so we do not need to add another one. We simply just need to put the 6. And we drop this 12. We did nothing to the 12. All we did was get rid of the x to the right. From there, we are just solving. We are subtracting 24 on each side in order to get x by itself, or work on getting x by itself. Notice that doesn't do anything to the negative 6, so that will stay the same. It stays negative. But from there, 12 minus 24 is going to be a negative 12. Last but not least, we need to get x by itself by dividing a negative 6 to both sides. Negative 6 divided by negative 6. That'll cancel, leaving you with the x, which is what we wanted. And then from there, negative over a negative will give you a positive. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Now this is very colorful and color-coded, but I wanted to make sure we see each of the steps and understand why we're doing it. And it's a lot easier to show these types of steps with problems like 9 and 10. So if you need a color code to help you understand, then by all means do so, especially for these types of questions when you're given a little bit more room. Now, number 11 does deal with a decimal. Say if you don't like thinking about decimals or anything, you can always use a calculator, which is how I'm actually going to solve for this one. So starting with just simplifying, that's going to give me negative 2.5 times 4. So negative 2.5 times 4x is going to be a negative 10x. We keep the x with us. Negative 2.5 times a negative 4. Because keep in mind, this minus sign can just be plus a negative. That is just going to give us a positive 10. There is no x, so I don't need to include that. Equals a negative 6 because I haven't done anything else with it. Just double checking my work here. Negative 10x plus 10 equals negative 6. Now, we've done all the simplifying that we can do, so now we need to go through the process of solving. Making a quick little copy so I can solve. Now, solving this one's going to be pretty straightforward. Subtract a 10 on each side. This will give us a negative 10x equals a negative 16. We would then need to divide by a negative 10 on each side, giving us x equals a positive, it looks like 1.6 or 8 over 5. But you can do that however you want. I'm going to do it as 1.66 since it started off as a decimal. But just notice it will be positive because a negative over a negative turns into a positive value. Now 13, you have fractions. I'm going to start off with simplifying first and then go through the process if I need to get common denominators. So distributing first, this 1/6 goes to the x, giving me 1 over 6x. And it goes to the negative 5, because that can turn into plus a negative. So I could say this is a minus 5 over 6 equals. Do the exact same thing with this second fraction and parentheses. This would be a positive 1/2 x plus 1/2 times 6 is going to be a 3. Now it does seem like I need common denominator, so I'm just going to put a 3 over 1. And it looks like that common denominator will be a 6. So my first part here can stay the exact same. It's just the second part that's going to need to change. I need to multiply that top and the bottom by 3, which gives me 3 over 6x. And then for the second one, I actually need to multiply by a 6, which will be an 18 over 6. This is what I'm going to be solving or using to solve for my x. So I'm going to move this over for now my solve. So with this, I'm going to get x to one side first. X. This will be a negative 2 over 6x, and everything else drops. That canceled, equals 18 over 6. To get that x by itself, we're going to add a 5 over 6 on both sides, giving me a negative 2 over 6x equals, this will be a 23 over 6. Now, with that, to still get x by itself, we now need to multiply by that reciprocal, so that negative 6 over 2 on both sides. Now, although this does give us a little bit of a funky answer, keep in mind negative times a negative, that will give me a positive. I have a 6 on the bottom and the top. Same ordeal with my 2's, leaving me with that x equals. Now with this one, I have a single negative sign, so my answer will be negative. A 6 on the top and the bottom, but leaving me with a 23 over 2. That is a little bit wonky, but that does just give us a half value. Worst case scenario, let's plug it in and see if it actually works. And I'm going to use my calculator to help me out with this. So just using my calculator, I'm going to plug in 1 divided by 6 in another set of parentheses, do that negative 23. All right. Okay. Negative 23 over 2, which I'm actually just going to simplify that as a negative 11.5. Because that's what it would be as a decimal. Minus 5 equals 1/2, which I can put that in parentheses, times another negative 11.5 plus 6. Now the reason being is because if I put these fractions in parentheses, the calculator will read it, but if I try to do the fraction over here without parentheses, it will not read it correctly. And so you do have to keep in mind how you plug things into your calculator. So plugging it in, minus 5, that's going to be a negative 2.75. Now we're hoping and praying that this other side will give us the exact same. Negative 11.5 plus 6. It does. Negative 2.75. So that's just another way to check to make sure you get the right answer, because once again, that negative 23 over 2 did actually worry me a little bit, but all you got to do is plug it in and see if it works out to your favor. And if you need to know what that negative 23 over 2 is as a decimal, you can plug that in. That's going to give you that a negative 11.5. I just did it in my head, but if you need to check it, go ahead and plug it in your calculator. All right, next one is 15, and then we have that 17, and 19. So we only got 3 more to go. I know that this one is a little bit longer one, but that's just because there's so many steps. Starting off with simplifying. I'm not going to write out all my steps now. I'm just going to start by simplifying and then solving. I will have to distribute first. So this becomes a 4x. This is a negative 2, because you can do plus a negative. Negative 2 times x is a negative 2x. Negative 2 times that negative 2 is a positive 4. Equals, you could actually go ahead and combine your like terms. I have a negative 9 minus 8. So that would leave me that positive 5x minus 17. You can go ahead and do that on that right side of the equal sign. So from there, combining my like terms on the left hand, I get 4x minus 2x, which will just be a 2x, and everything else will stay the same. Now, what happens whenever we simplify and solve all in one line? Well, I'm just going to go through the process of solving now. I'm not going to do it as 2 different columns. I'm just going to go straight into solving for my answer. This will be a negative 3x plus 4, since that just drops down, equals, this just drops down as well, a negative 17. I then need to work on getting x by itself by subtracting a 4 on each side. This just drops, negative 3x, that canceled, equal a negative 21. Last but not least, divide by that 3 on both sides. X will equal a positive 7. Negative over a negative will be a positive. 21 divided by 3 is a 7 as your final answer. Now, dealing with Peter, dealing with number 17, this is based off of using his terms and setting up a problem first. So just reading out what Peter is thinking, it says, if you subtract 12 from my number and multiply the difference by 3, the result is 54. So this is all dealing with that vocabulary that we talked about a couple weeks ago. Result equals a negative 54. Taking the other pieces step by step, if you subtract 12 from my number and multiply the difference by negative 3. So I'm just going to look at this first part from my number. We don't know what that number is, but we can still say this is n minus 12. If you subtract 12 from my number and, now typically that would be addition, but it's saying and multiply. So we know we need to now multiply that difference by that negative 3. You still just take everything piece by piece, and it will be able to give you the equation we need to solve. So once again, just going to move, or try to move this over. There we go. The result of negative 54, that's what's in blue. Subtract n minus 12, that's my number in subtraction of 12. And then from there, what's in green, that multiplying the difference by a negative 3. So everything's color-coded. Now what we just need to do is solve. Start off by distributing. Negative 3 times n is a negative 3n. Negative 3 times a negative 12 is a positive 36, equals that negative 54. Now from there, we need to get rid of this 36 to work on getting n by itself. Those will cancel, leaving you with that negative 3n equals. Now from there, if you need a calculator to figure out what that is going to be a negative 90. 54, or negative 54 minus 36 is a negative 90. Now to get n by itself, negative over a negative will give me a positive n equals, same ordeal, negative over a negative gives me a positive, 90 divided by 3 is 30. Therefore, his number that he's thinking is 30. All right, last but not least, number 19. How many solutions does the equation have? So this is going to go into different solutions, which is kind of cool to think about it. So I believe the next unit we talk about the different solutions and how many that they could have. But let's just go ahead and solve. By distributing first, we have to distribute. It's going to be a negative 2x minus 8 equals negative 2x minus 8 minus 6. Combine these like terms, minus 8 minus 6. Well, that's going to give me a negative 14, but everything else will stay the same. Now from here, let's take a look at what happens. We need to get this x to one side, so let's go ahead and add that 2x. Now that's going to give me a 0. This is going to be 0. Bring down this minus 8 equals a negative 14. So if we take away that 0, that's going to be negative 8 equals negative 14. That doesn't work. There is no way negative 8 equals negative 14. So whenever this asks how many solutions does it have, this is going to be no solutions. And it's no solutions because those x's canceled out and these values did not answer or did not equal. It's okay if you have your x's cancel out, but if they equal each other, that means all solutions, to where if they do not equal, that means no solutions. And so what we've been doing so far, and this is kind of a good little intro to the next unit, what we've been doing so far is finding one solution. What you're going to be seeing in the future is what happens if we get no solutions. What happens if we get all solutions, which means every number we have that we can plug in will work. What we've been dealing with is one solution so far, but we're about to see problems that have more than one or no solution at all. So just keep that in mind and make sure you take good notes for the next units.